truth and preservation of our soul shine. I can feel it, yours and mine. Close your eyes and witness it inside. In your bones, you will know. Trust and let go, and let it flow.
Welcome to another divine episode of All Things in the Name of Love. Today I have with me a deep soul sister who I met through the most fantastic synchronization last year, and her name is Bridgette Berg. And she's an intuitive, she's a magical being of light, and we've been trying to coordinate this for eons, and today is the day where the alignment came in. So I welcome you, Bridgette, and I want to talk about like your gifts, how you came upon them, how you see them unfolding, because one of the gifts that I have in my relationship with you is how you call in your days and how you set the intention to like, I'm going to have this, you're open to magic all the time. And how did you come upon getting to that state, or was it innate? And I'm going to shut up now.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for that beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it so much. And my connection to you is sacred and beautiful. And I think we really do mirror each other. So I feel like when we're in each other's energy, we mirror each other and activate each other. So thank you for all that. I have been aware of myself since I was a child, and in the environment that I chose, the environment, except for nature, did not really mirror me. And when I shared with the adults that I was surrounded by how I experienced nature and the world, and I don't know exactly how I described it, I just know that I was able to see life force energy, see auras, and have conversations with nature. Now, I didn't know it was telepathic. I didn't understand any of that. And how I saw and felt things, I just felt like this is how everybody is. I'm sure that that's how it occurred for me as a child. And when I told, the grown-ups, whatever it was and how I felt, it did not, their reaction seemed startled or it wasn't, oh wow, it was, I don't know, it's something that I felt suppressed me a little bit, where I felt like it was wrong. It did not make them happy, or it caused a lot of static. So I felt, wherever I was at in my childhood, I just decided to keep that part of myself to myself with nature. And I'm sure I suppressed it off and on throughout my childhood, because there was a lot of trauma in my childhood. And then in my young adult years, I suppressed it a little bit more until I think it was about in my late 20s. It just started tapping on my shoulder again. And, I always had this awareness about myself. And I used to always say that I felt like I was from another planet. I always felt like I was from a different planet. My magic was always a certain way. I mean, I always operated on this certain level and this pure innocence. And I felt judged by that an awful lot. There was always a label put on me. And I still march to the beat of my own drum, no matter what. And I don't feel like I bought into a lot of the things that were being put out there. I always lived in my own world. And again, I was criticized for that because I wasn't fitting in the boxes that society was trying to put me in. And I'm grateful that I had a childhood, even though it was kind of crazy. Nobody was forcing me to, honor any kind of religion. My parents were hippies. I was born in the 60s. So there was a lot more openness, a lot more hippie activities.
At least on the West Coast, not so much on the East Coast.
Well, yeah, because I'm born and raised in California.
Yeah.
And I feel that somewhere in my mid 30s is when it's really got very strong. And I was in a part of my marriage where um, I felt supported on a financial level, but I didn't feel supported on an emotional level. And I didn't know how to communicate that either. And all this stuff is coming on to me right before I'm turning 40. And I started doing service work before then. So let me just tell you that um, in between relationships, before I entered a relationship with my husband, um, I went to massage school. I had a lot of people tell me that when I touched them, they felt healed. And I always knew that there was something special about me and my hands. My hands always get really, really hot.
Mhm.
And I started to see some gentleman at the time. His name was Nick Newmont. He's still very well known now. At the time, this was like almost 30 years ago, I did past life regression with him. And he would he would had little cassettes and he would record his sessions with me. And he told me that I was a healer. And I kind of knew that I was this kind of resonated with me. But again, I was not self-aware at this time. I was in my 20s at this time. And he said, "Oh, you're going to be doing this and you're going to be doing that." He says, "Oh, and by the way, you're a transition agent." And and I said, "Well," I was like, what's that?" "Oh, you help people transition. They'll find you when they're going to pass and you're going to help their soul transition."
Wow.
And that sure did happen. And it actually kind of frightened me a little bit because I didn't know what I was doing. I
Mhm.
didn't know that I was doing anything. I guess that was the purity and the beauty of it, is that my ego wasn't getting involved in saying, "We're going to do this and we're going to do it this way and we're going to get this credit." So it did happen that way. And when I made a vow, so I started to do a lot of spiritual work, and I did a lot of work with High Priestess. And we came here to my home. We created a sacred circle, and my mentor and this other couple other women, they let me know that I w- the intention was for me to make a vow to be a servant of God
Mm.
and goddess. And um, they let me know that it was to be really sure that this is what I was ready to sign up for, because once I made this vow, I could never go back.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
there was no question in my mind. I had no idea what was going to happen in my life, but I just knew that I made a vow. This vow was very different than a marriage vow. To me, this vow was solid. And what happened is my life turned right side up. That was one of the first times my life turned right side up.
Mm.
It did stir up a lot of stuff in my inner life with my marriage. Um, and I think my higher self knew that I needed to separate from this marriage so that I could continuously grow into who I am for the world.
Mhm.
Because I did have this awareness back when I was a child. I think probably about 8. I had an epiphany where uh, I had this awareness that I was here for a purpose bigger than myself. Now, as a child, I didn't understand what that meant. And that little seed was always with me throughout my lifetime. Even when I would try to suppress it, it was still, remember, don't forget about that. And again, I didn't understand what it meant. And then when I went through the divorce, I did a lot of deep work on myself, because I'd always went from relationship to relationship. So I felt this was a time for me to really work on me,
Mhm.
marry me. And was studying Kabbalah. I was a practicing Buddhist for so many years. Then I studied Kabbalah because I was interested about the mysticism of Judaism, because I was born Jewish.
Okay.
Um, so I learned some great things about some of these modalities, but they weren't what I was looking for. I
Mhm.
got what I liked, but I left what I didn't. I said, okay, bye-bye. Okay, this is not my thing. Nature is my church. Nature is where I find myself, my true self. And any work that I've done outside, I've always felt where I found my truth. And um, and that's where I had that epiphany as a child. Was I was outside.
Mhm.
And I've always had a deep connection with trees. They would download me, and I don't know that I would know exactly what they downloaded me with. I would just know it later.
Mhm.
Now, today, I converse with the trees. Some of them have names. Some of them let me know that they're male or they're female or they're both. They all connect with each other. Whenever I'm traveling, I tell them to connect with each other so that they can protect me. And uh, so I know I'm kind of all over the place, but when I got divorced and I started doing that deep work on myself is when everything started to open up. I
Mhm.
started to see more parts of myself. And
Mm.
then, so I got divorced in 2007. And about 2013 is when I met my mentor. The woman who I call today is like a cosmic mother.
Mm.
And she really helped me to develop my telepathy. Um, she guided me the way that I wish my mom would have.
Mm.
And she saw me. She was the only human being in my lifetime that fully saw me. And
Wow.
that for me was scary,
Mhm.
um, confirming, um, and also she echoed what I had heard that I resisted, to step into the light, to um, let people know who I am, to get out of, under the radar and get out in the forefront.
Mhm.
And there are people that need me, and that there was so much need for me. And during this time, by the way, people did find me. Um, uh, before I got divorced, a woman through my Buddhist practice. There was a Anyway, I was found through different people that knew of me. They knew me before I even knew myself. And this woman, her name was Rose. She was dying of cancer. She really did change my life, and she's an angel that watches over me.
Mm.
She was this little petite, uh, beautiful being. And the first time I met her, she was going through radiation treatment, or chemo, I'm sorry, in the hospital.
Mm.
And I came right when she was doing that. So when they wheeled her into the room, she didn't feel that great. And I just intuitively knew to pull energy out of her feet.
Mm.
And I brought a modality with me. I think it was black obsidian, I think it was. And I put it at the foot of her bed. And I
Mm.
just guided energy. I guided it not to go into me, but to go like use my hands to bounce off my hands and go into the earth. And
Mhm.
I was like, am I really doing this? I thought, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I constantly questioned whether I was doing things right or not.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, she pops up of the bed. She starts chatting it up. She's like, oh my God, my hair. She's like, excuse my hair. She was so, everybody in the room that brought me there, their jaws were like, I mean, I'm so glad I didn't get into all their reactions. I was focused on her,
Right, right.
my connection with her.
Mhm.
And I gave her some relief. And in that moment that we shared this connection, um, I'm glad that I wasn't so aware of what the power of what I was doing,
Mhm.
because it was more powerful because I wasn't aware of it.
Right.
And uh, I everybody else around me made it mean something more than what I did. I was just connecting with her in the moment. And I
Right.
was grateful that I was able to do something that helped her to feel better and to be able to express herself to me the way that she did. And I don't remember all of the experience in that moment. I just remember that she felt better. And then the next time I saw her, she was it was towards the end of her time here. And
Okay.
she was not she was incoherent. And but I felt her soul, and I felt her telepathically communicate with me. And her husband at this time was so incredibly grateful for me to be there. There
Mhm.
was hospice care there. They were very curious about me.
I'm sure.
And they actually followed me to my car because they were walking to their car too.
Okay.
And they asked me about, if I would be interested in, doing any kind of work in hospice care. And I definitely entertained the thought, but I got a hard no.
Yeah.
And so I honored that.
Mhm.
And again, people have found me since then, but she's the first that I can remember,
Mm.
since this was, brought to my attention. I'm sure I did it when I was a child, as my mom did tell me about somebody that took their own life. And after that, I played with the toy they gave me, and I maybe I knew ahead of time. And again, I don't remember, and I don't know the details about that, but I do know that this experience has been happening to me a lot since then. And I don't see death the way that everybody else does, because we don't really die,
Right.
and even now, the way that I look at that whole experience as a human, there's so much peace around it.
Mhm.
So I've worked with children, even though I one of them I never even met. I just connected with her and her mom uh, before she passed, and that was a little hard on my heart because at the time the little girl was the same age as my youngest daughter. I think
Mhm.
it was like 9 or 10.
Wow.
So it was a little bit hard on my heart. I won't lie.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it was peaceful at the same time, because I felt like that child chose to incarnate for a short period of time to help heal the family.
Mm.
And that's what happened afterwards. So, um, you know, stepping into myself fully, I've learned that there's so much need to, now I understand, now coming full circle, I understand that vision that I saw as a child.
Mhm.
I'm here to help heal the world. And this is something I've known. My purpose here is to help heal the world through the vibration of love. Now
Mhm.
I want this big love, this big heart that walks around loving everything, but I feel like now I'm really able to tackle that on a different level because I've learned self-love. And
Mhm.
it's a practice. It's a practice to come full circle to love yourself and hold yourself in such high regards.
Mhm.
And, backtracking to when I got divorced, I never had any tattoos. I was kind of anti-tattoo. And studying the Kabbalah, there was this book called The 72 Names of God. And there was like this Hebrew writing, three characters or three letters. For each one, they had three letters that represented a name. And one of them was soulmate. And I decided that I was gonna, I tattooed my wedding finger um, to marry myself.
Mm.
And this was really big for me. This was the next big vow that I was going to honor and marry myself and hold my own self as my own true beloved. And there's been lots of ups and downs and twists and turns and dating myself for the last 13 years and then 14, 15 years, whatever it's been, doing all this amazing work and self-discovery.
Mhm.
I've come full circle to where I do see, like I made an impossible dream a couple years ago, more before the pandemic. I think it was 2019, that I wanted to touch the lives of 20 million people by the end of 2024, not knowing all this stuff was going to be coming up.
Oh.
So, I really do feel that that is possible.
Mhm.
It's not an impossible dream. It's something that's very possible.
Right.
And I feel that the spirit is to use me.
Mhm.
And I do love working with women, and the work that I've done with women has created a foundation for me. Sacred divine sisterhood.
Mhm.
We as women, I feel that the more that we heal ourselves into, like, personally,
Mhm.
and then we take our sacred seat in a divine circle with other women, and we stir the pot of honey. We hold the space for each other to show up however we are, not perfect, angry, frustrated, sorrow ridden, whatever it is that, or full of bliss and joy and creating heaven on earth, because we're all of that at all
Mhm.
different moments. And to be able to, I feel that part of the purpose, to heal the world, is to really get what a gift it is to be a woman. Like, we have been so distorted for so many years with so many different things that have separated us from our true selves, and honoring our sexuality, our sensuality, our spirituality, our leadership, our magic, our prana.
Mhm.
We have the ability to birth worlds. And I
Mhm.
feel like we've gotten so distracted from that
Yeah.
and so checked out of our bodies, sharing our bodies, and I'm not judging any of that, because I was that person.
Mhm.
And I realized that this body is sacred.
Cool. Is
It's
it?
very sacred. And that we have two hearts. Our prana is our second heart,
Mm.
and to link those together and to love ourselves, and then get out there and do our work, because we're all here to do amazing work. We're
Mhm.
all here. We're all magnificent. We're all special. We're all telepathic. We're all empathic. We're all psychic. We all have this magnificent light force energy, about us. And I feel that my purpose is to mirror that out to everyone that I come into contact with, or anyone that I talk to on the phone. That is an opportunity. I don't care if I'm, yes, I'm in this 3D realm and I got to make a call. Like the other day, I had to make calls to add my son to my insurance because he just got a car. Okay. I'm in the 3D being and doing, and I'm still observing that okay, I'm in this realm. I've got to do this act, okay. I get on the phone and I'm talking to somebody. I could have done everything on the computer, but I didn't want to. I
Mhm.
wanted that connection.
Yep.
And the people that I got connected to were so grateful. They were grateful because they like that connection too. They don't get it that much. So I took that opportunity to acknowledge them, to
Mhm.
tell them, you know what, wow, I just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge you and the universe connecting us in this moment. Let's just honor our connection. I
Mhm.
wish you beautiful goodness, and whatever I bestowed on them or whatever I wished for them, and I truly authentically meant it, and
Mhm.
they received it. So yeah, it's like, I feel that we are presented with opportunities. We're presented with opportunities to create heaven on earth. We are heaven on earth. Heaven is not something we go to when we die. It's here. It's
Mhm.
here. And
I
I'm
had
really, yeah.
You're sharing that call. I was at a local coffee shop
Mhm,
last weekend, and I'm talking to the barista who's clearly like he knows the wave of people are coming in. And I
mhm,
looked at him as he handed me my chai and I said, I hope you have. And I tuned into his energy and I paused. I said,
mhm.
a beautiful day. And he was like, whoa, I needed to hear that so
Yeah.
much. Because
Yes.
like it wasn't me just like, I hope you have a beautiful day. It was like pausing to feel where his frequency was, because we're all
Yes.
frequency.
Yes.
And like when you take the time to have that acknowledgement,
Mhm.
world shift.
Yeah. This
It's
is how we change the world.
powerful.
We acknowledge it. Everybody, every human being that we set our eyes on is a part of us. So
Mm-hmm.
if I were to think negative thoughts or judge you, I'm judging myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I think, God, I want to slap her, I want to slap myself. I was like,
Right.
it's like, not that I ever think those kinds of things, but the thing is that I I really get that there's a level of responsibility to who we are. Our thoughts create things,
Yeah.
and our mouth is our magic wand. I
Mm-hmm.
remember learning, like, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago about abracadabra. I never knew abracadabra was Hebrew, and I didn't really know what it meant. But what it means is, what I speak, I create. Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's like, and then here's the thing is that we have to, not have to, we are meant to fill ourselves up first. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing, especially women are so, we've been conditioned to give to everyone else first and ourselves last.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think most people are conditioned that way. I won't just say women are, but women are more the nurturers. So I say women, but men too.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I think is so extraordinary, because when I work with people, I'm very animated. I think that helps people learn. When
Mm-hmm.
you make things fun, and when you get on an airplane, the reason why they tell you to put the mask on yourself first is because they know you're going to want to do it on the kid first.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if you do it on the kid first? You're dead. Who's
Right.
going to take care of the kid?
Right.
So it's like, we really want to start getting redesigned and reprogrammed to think about ourselves first. It's not, well, people say it's self-centered. Yes, it's centered with the self. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. It's the
we want to look at everything.
distortion. Like all those
Yes.
distortions is like I'm being selfish because I'm recovering from like decades of adrenal fatigue. So I'm like
Sure.
letting myself relax, even though my mind is like, you should be doing something now. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah.
But what I see is like something as simple as like, okay, there were 3 events I could have gone to last week. I know myself that if I do 3 events consecutively, like even 3 days, I
Hmm.
exhaust myself. I deplete myself. So I only did one.
Hmm. Because if
Because
you're going to show up for something, you want to show up at your best. You want to show up at your highest frequency.
Mhm.
And that is very important. I think the other thing that's really important is we need to allow ourselves time from one thing to the next. Okay, so a good example is I work at a wellness center. I am a provider there. I'm a natural born healer, so I do have an opportunity to do my healing gifts where I'm working on people one-on-one in that healing realm. But then I'm also doing frequency healing with our modalities, our computers and stuff like that, which is it's a technology device that I'm being exposed to. So we do have EMF, deflectors and stuff like that. But I'm not out in nature and I'm not with a human. I'm on a computer, right? And then I come home and I have a family that's looking at me because they know I'm the magic. They know that I cook. I almost have an agreement as a team player in my home on some level that I will provide this when I come home, right? So one of the things I've noticed within my own self, and now I put it into practice, is that if we just go from one thing to the next, and we just go thrust ourselves and from one thing to the next, like menstrual cycle, a moon cycle, women, we are not meant to be out there pounding the pavement, hustling, as they call it, grinding, whatever, during our moon cycle. That's a sacred time. I did not learn about all that till it was towards the end of my moon cycle, of that, embracing my moon cycle. I will tell you though, that in my 20s, I was given a book that I have today called Earth. And it talks about using your menstrual blood to put it out in the world. I started doing that in my 20s, where I put my menstrual blood in a jar of water and I anointed the earth with my frequency. This is not a bad thing. This is not a gross thing. This is a very high vibrational thing.
Right.
So I was doing non-conventional things well before my time. Now that I think about it, and the thing is that when you get caught into that 3D realm and you put yourself in a box and you thrust yourself from one thing to the next, and now I've been teaching myself and my family and my people that I work with is, give yourself a moment to transition. Let me allow like how we tune into somebody, how you stop and well, give yourself a moment to transition from Ensoleil Brigitte to home Brigitte, and I feel that when we do that, we allow ourselves to do that. Like before I get out of the car, when I come home, I allow the car. Now the car is a portal. It's a portal for me. It's a portal for me to now step into Brigitte, the mom, the Ima, because I'm called Ima, and I consider myself to be like a wife, because I'm in that role, and also the divine goddess, the high priestess, the wise one, the inner sage, because my family looks to me for that, and so there are many facets to who we are as women and as beings, and I think it's really important when we allow ourselves to transition. Just give yourself a few seconds to transition. So when I come into the house, as opposed to before doing that, I would come in, I would be like I needed to go decompress, and I have I need to decompress. Don't come at me. And I feel like if somebody came at me, like, where's my dinner? When are you going to make dinner? I would feel irritated, like, how dare you come? I think when I transition properly, I show up differently, and then I express to everyone, I'm going to go upstairs, I'm going to change, and when I come back down, I'll be ready to get started. So I give myself, I set the tone, and I give myself that space. When we do that properly, because I feel like part of how we evolve is by acknowledging what we need, because we're really good at acknowledging other people. We're getting much better at acknowledging other people authentically. Where I feel like we could do, work on is acknowledge what we authentically need without feeling like we are not worthy of it, without feeling shameful of asking for it, all those things. Because, I'll even hear, so sorry, but I need, forget all that. So sorry, but I need, I should be doing this. That's another thing.
Good is the worst
There's
word.
nothing we should be doing. There's nothing we should be doing. But what we want to do. And so I'm really committed to, because how I connect as I connect with the body. And I feel like when we hold these things in our body, it has an effect on our environment and on us. So, I'm practicing and I'm learning every day. And I feel that that's the best way to be, you know, and to practice and to learn every day. And I love the connection that I have with the women in my life, the one-on-one, the
Mhm.
group of women that come to my meditations every Wednesday morning, the sisterhood that's been created here, the sacred, safe space, and the other areas that I get to participate in, and the other beings that, you know, these kinds of moments when we take these times as women, when we take time to be quiet within ourselves, when we take time to connect with each other, and even be part of, uh, like some kind of, whether it's a sacred circle or just gathering of some sort, a meditation, whatever it is. I feel like there's a calling for that more, and for us to be out in nature more, and to
Oh,
get our shoes off, and to really get connected, and to get connected to each other. As a matter of fact, I think it would be really great if we were to have more gatherings in a sacred way, where we were able to not have clothes to hide behind,
mhm.
I'm not talking about in a sexual way. I'm just
Right.
talking about being free and being connected, because
Mhm.
I know a couple of my friends that did a lot of work as high priestess and work in France, you know, for years, working for years, and a certain community. Um, and one of the things that they discussed was that for 2 weeks, everything they did was they were all naked, and
Wow.
there was a liberation and freedom inside of that, because you can't
Yeah,
hide behind clothes.
right.
You know what I mean? You're just out there and open. It really calls you to show up and work on things very differently. It
Mhm.
calls you to connect with things very differently, to get back to the base of who we are as a human
Yeah.
life force energy, and so taking the time to be out in the sun yesterday with, uh, you know, creating the space for myself so it
Mhm.
could be private. So I'm not offending my neighbors in any way, shape, or form. And and to connect with myself, to connect
Yeah.
with source, to connect with the sun, to connect with the earth, and to bring
Mhm.
all of that in alignment. Um, and to remember to regard ourselves in such high regards.
Mhm.
That's another thing. That's been a practice. You won't hear me calling myself dumb or stupid or any of those kinds of things. It's like, even if I don't do something perfect, I'll ask them, I'll say, well, okay, Brigitte, yeah, how would that feel when you did it that way? And how would it feel if you did it a different way?
Right.
And then, okay, well, I have an opportunity to do a different way, either now or even tomorrow.
Mhm.
There's always opportunities. That's another thing, that we have an opportunity to shift something right then and there. If we
Mhm.
don't like the way, like, if I interact with my daughter or my son, and I can see that, um where I could be responsible how I left them feeling, right? Not necessarily being responsible for everybody's feelings, but if I showed up a certain way, and that causes a frequency and an energy that I'm living in, I'm in
Mhm.
too, right? So if I want to be responsible for how the world is, I got to be responsible for how I show up. And I'm not going to always be perfect, but I can clean it up. And
Mhm.
by doing that, there's integrity.
Mhm.
When we want to be authentic, our authenticity is connected to our integrity. And I feel like we can really just, if we just be authentic about those kinds of things, energetically our frequency stays at a certain level where we can
Mhm.
keep evolving and keep opening up.
Yep.
And when we feel a certain way, I feel like even when I feel angry, or if I feel sorrow, if I give myself permission to allow myself to experience that emotion,
Mhm.
then it shifts through quicker. Like, I give myself one day a month, I give myself a day to grieve, whatever it is.
Yesterday, I felt something here,
Hmm.
and I just asked myself, "Okay, what do you need?" And I just started crying.
Yeah.
And I cried for an hour, and I didn't even bother trying to figure out what it was,
Yeah.
because that just gets me in my head. But if I allow
Exactly.
the experience to come through me,
Yeah.
I felt so much lighter when I was done,
Yeah.
because
It's
stuff
very
just needed
cleansing.
to come out.
And if something needs to be revealed, it will be revealed. It will
Right.
show itself. It'll say to you, like, here, this was a part of me that needed to be healed, or that was asking to be healed. And it was in our blind spot,
Mhm.
because that's the other thing, is that whenever we get triggered by how somebody does things to us, it's an opportunity because there's something unhealed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really committed to healing this human program,
Me too.
and being free,
Me too.
and being free of it, and being able to
Mm-hmm.
choose, because I feel like we can choose how long we want to stay in these human bodies. We can choose whether we want to walk through a wall or not. We can choose whether we want to jump a timeline or not.
Yep.
We can choose, how we want to feel. We can choose happiness and joy in the face of anything.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose it. It's a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But to get to that level of awareness is a practice.
It's definitely a practice. I don't
Practice.
care how evolved you think you are.
It's a practice.
So I feel like what my commitment is not to, um, look at how evolved I am. Is to
Right.
just to look to continuously be evolved.
Right.
To continuously open up and
Every
grow.
once in a while, I'll pause just to reflect.
Yes.
Like, wow, look what I just did. I just left everyone I knew and I moved to a place
Yes.
800 miles away from me.
Yes.
As a reflection,
Yes.
not as a, okay, I'm done. I
Yeah.
had that mindset, like when I got my PhD, I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
get to do whatever I want. And that was such a beautiful opportunity for me to realize the illusion
Yeah. Right.
of
I'm
what
sorry.
getting a PhD actually is. It's just more
Right.
what it really is masochism.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry.
pure, unadulterated masochism. And I studied something I liked, and it was still masochism.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but like my journey was like, okay, I'm literally torturing my body to get this.
Yeah.
For a piece of paper that lets me
Mhm.
call myself doctor,
Mhm.
neglecting myself.
Mhm.
Literally, like I gained 100 pounds my last year because I was neglecting myself
Mhm.
for a program that I don't even use it anymore.
Sure.
So like being able to have like, and I forgive myself, I love myself, I love that being that did magical things in the context of living with a paper mill, to the being that I am now, because I wouldn't be where I am now without that part of me breaking
Absolutely.
that illusion down.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
And
get.
to hold space for those different aspects of oneself and to love all those aspects of oneself is such a gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, I think some of those aspects of ourselves that are really like, we have characters, we have lots of characters. And some of those characters have really gotten in the way of me stepping forward.
Yep.
They have held me back.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is Gail, a 1950s Jewish housewife that stays under the radar, doesn't cause any riff, does all her magic when nobody's looking, and she's a little like, she's not expanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I bless her. She's been, she's served as per her purpose, but she does not, she's not aligned with this world that I'm creating for myself and the world that I'm stepping into. She, she, the world that she was created in doesn't exist anymore. So I feel that it's it's important to look at those parts of myself that keep me um in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, or standing up for myself, because I think boundaries have been a really, really important life lesson for me. Having healthy boundaries, and kind of learning boundaries, and learning to be not so hard on the around the because at first when I started to learn how to stand up for myself, I would just no grace,
Right.
and over time you learn, you grow. And I feel, though, I am the first example how I love myself, how I honor myself, how I respect myself is how other people are going to love, honor, and respect me.
Mm-hmm.
And, the biggest challenges are sometimes with family members,
Right.
to work through things. And I think that there are our greatest gifts. And
Mm-hmm.
I look at family members and people in general as personal emotional trainers. I call them pets, personal emotional trainer. That's what they are. They help
Yep.
us, to train and develop ourselves.
Mhm.
And boy, do they do sometimes, it's like,
They do some magic.
yes, yeah, they do. And here's the other thing is that I think it's really healthy for us to acknowledge ourselves. Like when you ask yourself, what do I want? There are times when I accomplish these amazing things that the old version of myself would have never done. And I'm so excited. I want to be acknowledged,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll ask myself, well, okay, Bridgette, what do you want to be acknowledged for? But I don't think there's anything wrong with asking your loved ones to acknowledge you.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I learned in the work that I did in landmark education, one of the program, things that I did work in is, asking for acknowledgement. Like, and we started with kids, with my kids, when I would notice how they would do things to try to get your attention without asking, you just want to ignore them when they're, trying to
Yeah.
get you. If you're on the phone, they're in the background doing something,
Right.
making fun or whatever. That's my kids. So I would say to my son, would you like to be acknowledged? What would you like to be acknowledged for? So I asked my kids when they came home from school or whatever, we started with, what would you like to be acknowledged for today? And at first it was kind of foreign.
Yeah.
And but then when we got the hang of it, it was really great because when they had an accomplishment at school and maybe they didn't get acknowledged in the classroom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And it also gets them into practice to understand that self-acknowledgement is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think because we're told that if you, think you're great, that you're stuck up, you're self-absorbed, whatever. That's a bunch of bull crap. I
Mm-hmm.
think if we could just turn that around a little bit, because again, that is also distorted people being connected to themselves and loving on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so, judgmental and everything. It's, we have been, here's what I've learned. We have been taught to honor our ego over our God self.
Mm-hmm.
So we're so used to stroking our own egos and everybody else's, but we're not used to honoring our God self. So
Right.
that's kind of foreign.
Right.
Well, that's kind of crazy. So I feel that, whenever I have an opportunity, which is a lot, to, kind of shift that a little bit. How
Mm-hmm.
about you honor yourself? And I
Yep.
think that when we honor ourselves properly, we're not walking around, looking for it outside of ourselves.
Right.
It kind of helps us. I don't know. These little things that I've just noticed over time, and and I've got grandchildren, and my 6-year-old granddaughter is very smart, very connected. I started, my work with her in the womb, and taught her how to do healing on her doll with crystals, and at like 1.5. And now she's 6 years old and she's like full power. When she's on the phone with my daughter, because they're not always with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So when she's with her dad and they FaceTime each other, and my daughter hurt her foot, she's like, okay, mom, she'll go like this. I'm sending you healing energy to your foot. And she just did it for a few. She's like, okay, I'm done now. You're good.
Wow. I
My
love that.
youngest daughter did the same thing because she was exposed to it too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you expose children to something different than all the other crap, expose them to teaching them how to grow food, and the excitement of watching something grow, and all the other, gifts that we have is who we are. I feel like, that's another way of making a contribution to the world is, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, but the biggest way, if we did nothing but just love ourselves, if that's all we focused on, and we did nothing else but just focus on self-love, that alone does huge ripples to the planet on such a healing positive level. And if that's all humanity, if every human being on the planet couldn't focus on anybody else because it was too much, but all they could focus on was on their self and love their own self and heal all the unhealed and the unforgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I put that energy out there. I envision that. And again, every opportunity that I can ignite that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, when we light the Shabbat candles on Friday night, that to me is very sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Shabbat is represented to be the most holiest day of the day, Friday night to Saturday is the holiest day of the week. And I'm not religious. I'm not super religious, but I do take certain things that really
Mhm.
resonate with me.
Mhm.
And when I light the candles, I visualize lighting the way for the troops, for the twin flames, for the beloveds to come together and ignite this light that illuminates the pathway for the world,
That's beautiful.
and that everyone is healed,
That
that
is
everyone begins to heal.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was at a play last week, and I sat in the back row. I had the exit seat.
Yeah.
I had somebody, there was a space in between me and the next person. And as I was settling into my space, I heard activate your Merkaba. So I activated my Merkaba. And then I heard, now send your toroidal field of love out to everybody in the space.
Hmm.
And so I wasn't even in charge of the love that was coming through me because I was open to being the conduit.
Right.
So I was able to just enjoy the play because I was in my body with my Merkaba
Hmm.
and sending love out.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to interact with anyone because I already was.
Hmm.
And it felt so amazing because I was feeling more compassion
Hmm.
because wasn't taking it on.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, wow, we can like self-source
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then emit what needs to be felt and not have us depleted as a result of it. And it's like,
Absolutely.
I like that. And that
Absolutely.
literally came in, like I've never done that before, but it just came in because I was open to receive it. And I was like, oh, we can actually affect more than, yeah,
Yeah.
and not take it on.
Absolutely. I also believe that we can actually send our energy to um, a space, an environment, or wherever before we actually get there. We can set the tone before we even get there. I've
Mhm.
actually practiced that and it's worked, especially if I'm going to enter some place that the last time I was there was not a pleasant experience. And I'm really committed to it being more harmonious.
Mhm.
And so I'll send my aura to go there ahead of me and
Mhm.
just douse it with grace. And that everybody that enters that space is just filled with they're transmuted. Anything that's inside of them is transmuted to the space of grace. So it's like they're walking through a portal.
Mhm. I
And
love
wherever they
that.
are in their life, wherever level they are, that it gets brought up to the highest level for them without causing them to be disrupted.
Right, right.
Because I've learned that sometimes when I raise the vibration, the frequency in a room before I get there, and not everybody is, ready for that, it causes a little bit of upset.
Yeah. Yeah, because
So
they
being
get
more thoughtful.
discomfort. They're like,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
so. I think like what you had expressed about, sending out all that light, that love frequency, that's something that I feel that I've done most of my life consciously and unconsciously. And I
Mhm.
think when we're conscious of it, it's potent, it's powerful,
Right. It's
and it
been
really
unconscious
does.
for me. So like the consciousness of it, it was like, oh
Right.
wow, this is so much better.
Yeah.
'Cause now I'm not taking it on or feeling
Right.
responsible for it. I
Yeah.
just am. And it
Yeah.
was, it felt so much lighter for me because then I can still go out and interact and not deplete myself,
Hmm.
which is a huge lesson for me because I depleted myself too much over my life. And so like coming into this greater space of no, you don't, you can still go out and just activate your Merkaba and then you can just share the love that you are. It's pretty fabulous. I
I
mean,
have to tell you something as to sit back here and look at you.
uh-huh.
Wow. Okay, so I can see your aura and it's bright. You got like this bright light coming off of you. I can see it
Wow.
all on this left side of you. No, that's actually the right side of you. This is the left side of you. It's bright, it's potent, and that feels like there's a loved one over your shoulder right here. I don't know, or somebody or maybe it's a interdimensional being. I could feel the presence of it. While you've been talking, all this light started coming off of you, off of
Oh,
your head, your whole body. It's like
oh,
when you moved your arm, I could see like a little bit of a trail of light.
oh.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I feel like I'm feeling more, which is, this
Hmm.
is what happens when we keep
Yeah.
allowing the light to
Yeah.
true. And so
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks
That's
great.
my
I'm telling
that's
you,
my little
you've got
kid,
this,
like the
you've got this
joy, like
glow.
so yesterday I went to this potluck and I had no idea what I was going to make at all. Like, I don't even really have any food right now. I'm going to go grocery shopping in a bit. I got a recipe downloaded through me, and I just watched myself make something that I have never made before, and it was like it was devoured.
What was it? What was it? I'm curious.
It was quinoa with sauteed cauliflower, onions, and zucchini, but the zucchini was like just sauteed. It wasn't, that mushy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I added roasted red peppers and artichokes and a balsamic vinaigrette.
Oh my God. No wonder it was
It was
devoured.
amazing. And I was like,
Oh my
this,
gosh.
like, but it wasn't me, because I'm like, what the hell am I going to make? And I heard
Yeah.
boom, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm making. And I just
I
watched
love it.
myself and then paused after
Uh-huh.
making it to like replenish.
Uh-huh.
And then I vacuumed downstairs, and it was just like that. Because I paused, I didn't get tired, and because I allowed myself to have things come through, it
Yeah.
just flowed through, and it was like, wow, this is so
Mhm.
amazing. Like when we allow ourselves
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
just be,
Mhm.
oh,
It really is a game changer because I feel like we're just more in the flow. I don't question myself when I'm working with people anymore. When things come through and logically it doesn't make sense to me, I'm like, oh, you don't need your mind right now, Brigitte.
right,
Is anybody asking for your address or your phone number? No, you don't need your brain. Because I honestly, I feel like when I don't need to be up in my mind analyzing things unless someone's asking me for my address, my name, or my phone number. You know what I mean? Like,
mm-hmm,
and I keep it there. I keep myself in my heart
mm-hmm,
because you're absolutely right. I really, truly, that what you just said really aligns with me and resonates with me. Just going with the flow, I feel that energetically, it doesn't take a toll on my energy, and it has me be at the cause of my life and not at the effect of my life.
mm-hmm,
And I love that. I love being inspired. I'm very, very inspired. And my connection with you, every time I connect with you, I keep seeing so much. Like on the way to Malibu yesterday, and I take this so I'm right on the cusp of Calabasas. I'm gonna take this Mulholland Drive, and it's different than all the main roads, the main ways you can go. And it's so beautiful. And even though the sun wasn't shining, there were other things that really touched my heart. And the trees, and walking, driving through like these trees that like this, I was going through a portal. Okay. Let me just tell you, I was going through a portal. And when I brought, so I didn't mind as soon as I got there to come back and get them. I didn't even get out of the car. The drive was so beautiful. It took me like 20 minutes maybe, and it didn't even feel like 20 minutes just because I was so taken by the drive, right?
mm-hmm,
And even though the sun wasn't out, I was still moved and I was still sparked like the sun was out.
right,
And then, so what I felt was I allowed myself to visualize and fantasize about land. And this where all these places where I'm driving through, I could see anywhere from, maybe 50 acres of land around here, or maybe even 20 acres of land. And then I start to visualize 140 acres of land somewhere in Hawaii. And I don't know why Bali's been calling at me, but it has been. It could be because Celine was just there, but it's been showing up in my realm, you
mm,
know, to just investigate, to
mm,
go and remote view and check out the vibe and the feelings. And
mm-hmm,
wherever it is that um, I feel driven to create community. Now, the old version of myself would have never, if you would have said, you're going to lead the parade, you're going to create community, you're going to build these homes, you're going to do all, I would have laughed at you.
mm-hmm,
But I also would have laughed if you would have told me that I was learning technology on the level that I am right now
right,
with where I'm at.
right,
So anything is possible and everything is possible and available. And when I connect with you is when I see that that what I see it gets sparked more. Specific people, it's almost like adding a log to the fire to keep the fire going, right? That's
Love
the analogy I
that.
just got. And whatever it is we're both doing individually and collectively, it's a beautiful spark, because I feel that I had this I saw this vision of the people that I'm connected to, and like the people that I work with here in California. And I have a deep connection to the people I work with at the wellness center. Each and every one of them, I'm connected to. I feel a deep connection to, and I feel a family bond with. And I saw this vision of all of us manifesting our deepest prayers, all of us. And when I see all of us, I see us all dancing underneath the stars with a little bit of rain, but it's warm, and we're laughing and we're crying, and we're full of just this like, oh my God, we did it. We are in it. We created heaven on earth, and we are in it, and we're here for the rest of our life. Like the rest of our life is unfolding the way that it was truly meant to. This is what I'm creating. I'm creating with you. I know I am. I know we create stuff in the ethers that we don't even talk about, and we're all interconnected. And we, to keep these kinds of connections and this content, and hopefully this stirs up somebody that listens to it, to remind you of what's possible, what's available, that everything and anything is possible and available to you. And if you forgot about it, just go into your heart. There's so many people that say, I don't know how to meditate. There's a lot of people that are coming away that are having these they want to tap in. They're almost in a hurry. It's almost like this urgency to tap in. And I let them know, like, listen, anybody that's listening to this podcast as there are so many ways that we meditate. You could go and cook like what you were expressing, and that could be a meditation right there. We did not have to close our eyes to meditate. There is value in closing your eyes and meditating, even if you can do it for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, start off wherever you can start off. There's a reason for that. But there's also walking meditations, being out in nature. That is just as potent, just as powerful. And I feel like, the mass of people that are waking up, that are looking for guidance, or looking for, where do I start? You start with right here. Just start by hugging yourself and saying, oh my God, I finally see you. And wherever that, even if it feels weird, I just feel like, I think that's where we've gotten really distracted from ourselves. And we've gotten into consumption. We've gotten into separation and judgment. And that's how we've been able to be controlled, and fear. But all that if we just recognize that it's not real, I love that fear is false evidence appearing real. But I also love that luck is lined up with cosmic knowledge.
Woo! I haven't heard that one. I love that.
Yeah. So, let's light ourselves with some cosmic knowledge. Let's ride the wave of, it's like a rainbows. I see rainbows everywhere. No matter where I am, I see a rainbow. It does not necessarily in the sky.
Right.
Rainbows follow me everywhere. And every time I see a rainbow, it sparks an awareness inside of me, a memory inside of my DNA cells memory, that magic exists, that healing exists, that all my dreams exist, and they're already here. So we have the power, each and every one of us, inside of us. And I feel it when you connect with someone who sees you and gets you, like this conversation we're having right now. And we can encourage our listeners and anybody that's going to find this to keep yourself connected to the people that see you, that honor you, that celebrate you, and that you don't have to be perfect when you show up. You can be whoever you are, wherever you are, and still be loved. And not listen to like your limitations that come out of your mouth, that people don't listen to you. Like that's the truth about you, because there's some kind of freedom if we could just let people get things out and listen to them, and just hold them in a space, and let them, just listening and holding that space transmutes things. We want to wire ourselves a little bit differently in how we listen to ourselves and how we listen to each other. Again, I think that if we just practice everything, it's all beautiful. Yeah.
That is such a beautiful Yeah, that I have to stop there because it's so beautiful. Thank you everyone who has tuned in, and the practice of the week that I encourage you to do is to actually tune into your heart. Take a deep inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Put your hands on your heart and just do that breath for even a minute, and you'll start to shift. And with that, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, beautiful sister.
Thank you, my beautiful sister.